welcome everyone back to Curiosities. It's been a hectic few days here. Those of us that are paying attention to what's going on, especially in Israel. I'm especially talking about Israel, and it's really disheartening when you think about the atrocities that are taking place. War in general is pretty awful. You know, humans can really display how cruel and inhumane they can be in war. But it also highlights, or it also allows for us to see just how many people around us are complicit with the atrocities that are happening, the horrors of war, and really trying to find justifications for it. And I want to talk a little bit about this meme, if you will, that was put on it was tweeted on X by the BLM Chicago group. They're affiliates of the Black Lives Matter. Being a minority myself, I understand the plight of black and brown people. But this particular organization, Black Lives Matter, BLM, is not one that I have ever supported. And I've said that in the public before, and I'll say it now. I've never been a supporter of it, never liked them. Because I just didn't trust them, and it was just something about them that just didn't set right with me. And when you look at this this tweet that was put out by them that has since been deleted, talking about "I stand with Palestine," shows this paratrooper with the Palestinian flag, insinuating that they are in support of what the Hamas group had been doing, terrorizing, butchering Israeli civilians. There were, families being torched alive, and I mean the details are out there. If you really want to delve into it, it's quite atrocious and quite disgusting on every possible level. And I just wanted to just convey my support to Israel. I always have been a supporter of Israel. War is horror. War is a horrible thing, and it doesn't matter what side you're on here. It's just you're gonna face some really atrocious thing. I wanted to really take a look here at CNN, because CNN has been following this, as have a lot of people. This is a big news. I believe this is a very, very large, big story. It's a huge story. Everyone is reporting on it, and I think everyone is starting to feel what's at stake here. Because at the end, I think a lot of people, and I am actually going to do another video on talking about the end of the world, because that's such a lively subject, the end of the world. But really, in all seriousness, this is what the headline reads from the CNN today. It says, protests over Israel-Hamas war sweep the globe as nations ramp up security. So everyone's on high alert. It was an incident that took place today. Some kind of mysterious car at the BMI airport right here where I live in Baltimore, at the airport, international airport. A lot of people use that airport to go into Washington, So having a car there under suspicious circumstances, they closed off all the roads. I mean, it was a big mess. People couldn't get in or out of the airport. It turned out to be a false alarm, but it's starting to build the anxiety for people. It started, like, the reality is starting to set in. I think that we're not talking about just any old, whatever war, and like Ukraine. Like Ukraine, you could say that Ukraine was a big deal, is a big deal, but this is a much bigger deal. I think the thing the war that's happening in Israel with Hamas and the Palestinians is a much bigger deal, believe it or not, than even the Ukrainian war. Let's take a look at what CNN has to say here. So demonstrators, rallies, and vigils have been staged around the world after Hamas militants launched a series of brutal attacks on Israel over the weekend, moving the long-running conflict into uncharted and dangerous new territory. Well, sure. Everyone is thinking about the long game here. This is the part where we're all starting to look around going, okay, well, are we heading towards Armageddon? Is this the first chapter of the end of the war, end of the world? Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who are thinking that, and why wouldn't they? Let's continue. The death toll has climbed in the days since, with the Israel Defense Force, or the IDF, saying that at least 1,200 have died in the country, while Israel authorities believe up to 150 civilians have been seized and taken over the border to Gaza. Israel's subsequent retaliation on the Palestinian militant movement that controls the Gaza Strip has been ferocious. And really, and I'm not going to mince my words here. I think the Israeli, especially Netanyahu, is and the whole, I think, military apparatus of Israel is thinking what they can do to respond in this. And the response is going to be, they're talking about ground war. They're talking about ground war because they have to go into a section of, what's within their own country. So it's often been referred to as an open air prison or whatever. Essentially, they just can't go in like bomb the thing. I mean, they can, but they want to go in and just obliterate Palestine. That's what they want to do. This is what's on the agenda. Their agenda is that, quite simply, they want to go in and they're just going to absolutely obliterate them. That's the plan. There is no other end game here for them. That's exactly what's going to go down. That's what they're going to initiate. There is no talking about it. There is no diplomacy going on here. There is no truce. There's no ceasefire. This is revenge. I hate to say it, but that's what it is. The Israelis are going in there with the idea, the mindset of those families and those children being butchered, and they are going to get revenge. This is perhaps the worst way to get it, but they're going to go in and get it. That's exactly what the Israelis have in mind. Let's see what else CNN has to say. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed that the Israeli military would attack Hamas with a force like never before. Again, while Defense Minister, I can't even pronounce his name, Yoav Gallant, ordered a complete siege of the densely populated territory that is home to 2 million Palestinians. My friends, ladies and gentlemen, what we're about to see, what is about to go down, is a slaughter. A slaughter unlike anything that we've seen, because we have cameras everywhere, and we're watching from all angles. There's not going to be any hiding this slaughter that's happening. This is an onslaught of absolute, just bombardment of death is really what we're talking about here. And I don't say these things lightly, and this is not the type of show where I like to talk about these. It's not a heavy show. Curiosities is not a heavy show. Curiosities is meant to be a lighthearted show. And this is a very, very heavy topic, but there's just no getting around it. I'm curious to know what you guys think about this. I mean, are you afraid of this? Do you think it's not going to affect the United States? I think it will. I think a lot of people think that it will. And I'm not sure how we're going to respond to it, because, we're always been, at least in recent memory, all we're talking about is doing what's, good, and, opening our hearts and our doors to everyone, welcoming everybody. And it's always this, happy-go-lucky, idealistic, unrealistic idea of how we want to just invite the world in. But when we invite everyone in, we're going to be inviting in enemies, unfortunately. Yes. A lot of people are predicting some really terrible things happening in this country as a result of this. I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm curious what you guys think. Do you guys think that sort of thing is on the horizon? Is the end near? Perhaps. I'm gonna read one more of this, and I think everyone should really be looking at as many different news sources as possible. I clearly am not a fan of CNN, but they are following this very closely, and I think a lot of news sources are just going to have to report, because it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to stand on some soapbox and start politicizing this thing. How are you going to politicize when people are getting butchered? How are you going to politicize when people, or families, when children are being slain in the fashion that they're being slain? It's unbelievable, but that's the cruelty that we are capable of as human beings towards one another, especially when there's hatred involved. There's a lot of hatred involved. I think for as much as people want to talk about spreading love and all that good stuff, there's just as much hatred, and still there's just as much bitterness and just viciousness, really. There's just people that just want to destroy and kill and shoot and butcher and slaughter and cut and kill. And we do a lot of praying. I mean, I'm a religious guy. I've never shied away from that. And anyway, praying for Israel and praying for all those poor families out there that are in mourning right now and are hurt and are devastated. I can't even begin to imagine. Please feel free to drop me a line, a comment, a DM. But please, this is a sobering moment, I think, for all of us. It's something we really need to take a moment to reflect on who we really are and who our allies are, who our friends are, and start thinking about our own families and how we're going to prepare for whatever might come our way, because you never know. I mean, you never know what tomorrow will bring. And hopefully we'll come out of this and look good on the other side and put this behind us. But you got to be prepared for the worst. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Until next time, God bless.
New Kingdom Radio Theater.